This week on Hak5, we're checking out free software for 3D modeling and talking to the creator of Demonsaw, a free encrypted file sharing platform. Also, quadcopter cage matches, because why not? All that and more this time on Hak5. This episode of Hak5 is brought to you by Domain.com.
Hello, welcome to Darren Kitchen. My name is Hak5.
I'm Shannon Morse.
It's a weekly dose of Technolust.
You've had way too many of these.
No,
I'm just going to take these back.
Okay.
Hey, I just wanted to say thank you real quick. Just starting off, our open house this weekend was so much fun. So thank you to everybody who came out. Of course, we'll have more in the future, but the quadcopter cage match was awesome.
Yes,
totally off the hook.
The arena of doom, a 4-foot cube acrylic quadcopter match for nanos and micros. Going at it, it was insane.
Yeah, so fun.
Thank you
The burgers
to
were
Domain.com
delicious.
for making that happen.
Thanks to Sarah for cooking the burgers. They were amazing.
It was great to get everybody out and just have a
Yeah.
good old-fashioned quadcopter
It
cage match barbecue.
very chill.
Get some 3D printing action. Some people brought some
Thoroughly
cool
enjoyed
3D
it.
printers.
I know, the 3D printer was great.
I love this because doing these meetups is really hacking is inherently social.
Yeah.
It always has been, whether it was Usenet or IRC, and just to get everybody together in meat space to carnivore out on meats. It's good. It's good. We also have vegan options. Just,
That we
just
did.
saying. Yes, and this kind of leads into one of the things I'm talking about this week because we got the opportunity to build this cage match because what we want to do is take things like the traditional Hubsan H107L, which is like the #1 most recommended first-time quadcopter for beginners because it's inexpensive, it's easy, it's got nice bumpers, it's difficult to break, and because of that, it's fun to put into a cage match rather than using netting. We did acrylic, which makes it all the more forgiving and fun.
Oh, it's great. They just bounce off. So funny.
Yeah, so that leads into some 3D printing stuff that we're doing as well. But I hear that we have new stickers for the wall.
Yes, we do. So this one's actually to you personally, Darren. It says, "Thank you, Darren. Your support keeps me going. Stay strong and enjoy your stickers."
Actually,
the little motorcycle guys.
These aren't gift from a fan. This motorcycle guy is Hunter Honda, who is an awesome motorcycle video blogger.
Oh,
who
I've
I supported
seen
by getting
those.
his stickers. I want his stickers on our show because he's great. So is Walterific and so many other motorcycle video bloggers.
Darren's a total
So
fanboy. It's
I kind of am. I am
It's so
totally
cute.
yes.
And then we also had one of our viewers over at Open House gave us all these "This is not a camera" stickers. So I think we should put one of these on the set
Love
too.
those. I have one of those on my camera.
They're so great. I
And
have one
think-
on my car.
Did the EFF make those? Is that who it was?
Oh, I don't remember. That's
You know
a good.
what? I
That's a
don't
good
know.
question. Right there.
Bloop, right there.
Aw,
All right.
That's perfect. I love it.
So, with all of that, you want to get some 3D modeling going?
Yeah, I do. I'm so interested in this. I
Okay.
totally understand how to do, slicer, but I've never actually been able to create my own models.
Right, so we're familiar with, and we've talked about this a bit in the past when we get into 3D printing to make all sorts of little doohickeys, that it's great to be able to go over to Thingiverse, grab yourself an STL file, import it, as we are right here, into our, in this case I'm using Matter Control, but whatever your other engine is, and just hit generate and
Yeah.
go ahead and create your model, edit your slice settings, and off to the printer it goes. But what if you need something custom? And that's what happened in this case where we were putting together an acrylic cube. It's a 4-foot by 4-foot by 4-foot using 1/4-inch acrylic. It's extruded acrylic, so it's pretty good and not too expensive. And basically, I wanted to be able to put it together like Lego so that we can take it apart and say, maybe, I don't know, take it to DEF CON or something. That'd be a lot of fun.
Cool.
And as such, I needed some parts. There are some things on Thingiverse that are kind of will fit the bill, but not really what I wanted. So I needed to do some 3D modeling. And while it is, here, I'll give you these. Those are the finished product.
Legos.
Yeah, kind of. And these are just printed out of ABS. But I have some experience doing 3D modeling from 3D Studio Max. I'm very used to a 4-pane old school display.
Yeah.
Things like AutoCAD and things of that nature I'm very familiar with, but things have totally changed since the last time I did those. And while I would love to use an open source tool like Blender, for example, is the only that comes to mind.
Right.
It's really not. I wouldn't say it's really made for this kind of precision stuff. It's more for character animation and things of that nature. Though I have successfully used Blender in the past to do some video editing. So you can find that over at blender.org. And it is kind of the most notable 3D modeling software that's open source. And it's pretty. It's good stuff. But for this, I need something a little different. And I've talked about Autodesk 123D stuff before. We did 123D Catch, where we were able to use photographs to create a 3D model of a lighthouse rig out in the San Francisco Bay.
That was really cool.
Well, they also make another application called 123D Design, and very similarly, it is free software for Mac and Mac and Windows and iPad for some reason, and it's ridiculously easy, and that's why I wanted to point this out, because in just a matter of minutes, I was able to kind of mock up these pieces, print them, and fit them, and say, hey, that works. So grab yourself a micrometer if you need, and otherwise, here's the software. This is one of the end pieces, and it's a single pane program. I haven't figured out a way to get it to do like a 4-pane like I'm used to, where you have like a top view and a left view and a front view. But you can get those by hitting these up in the upper right, rotating around. And otherwise, the thing that I just love about this is how quick it is to model. So you start with primitives, so I can just make a box or a sphere or a cylinder. Okay. So I'll grab a box, and before I drop it down, I can actually choose. I want it to be 40 millimeters by 10 millimeters by 60 millimeters.
Cool.
And there we go. And I can now like attach this to the other box if I wanted to by just selecting it and hitting Control T. And I really love the way that they've set this up to move objects around. You just hover over your, you're basically like, this would be up and down, this would be your Z axis, and over here with your Y or X.
Oh, that is awesome.
You can really easily get it into place. And what's cool about this is the grid snapping really works. I love a good grid snap. This is all done in millimeters. We see we've got these overlapping here, which may be what I want, may not be. And then another cool way to actually manipulate the objects is with the push. So if you hit P and select a facet, you can then pull a facet in or out. So
That's
I can now get it snapped on exactly where I want. And maybe I want it to be just a little wider, so I'll choose P again, drag this out until it matches. And it's really interesting because by default, it's snapping to 1 millimeter. But if I want, I can zoom in. And the more you zoom, the more precise it becomes. So you can do like 1/10 of a millimeter if you get in all the way. So if I hit this now and hit Control T, I can drag this guy over a little bit at a time until it lines up. And another really cool thing about this is, as far as doing Boolean operations, they've made it pretty simple. So if I wanted to, for instance, combine these objects, I could just select Merge, select the objects that I want to merge, and press Enter. And now they are one object.
That's cool.
And likewise, if I also want to take a cut out of something, so I'll create like a new box here, and I'm going to make it pink so that it's easier to see, and change the material over there. I can now Control T, move this guy over, get a better view on it. It is a little weird to get used to the whole like 1-pane view thing, but I know that that's pretty common nowadays with 3D modeling software. So get that guy where I want him. This is a far cry from Maya. And then maybe push this guy in a little bit more so he juts right through. And so now what we're going to do is, similarly to the Boolean operation that allows me to merge, we can actually do a subtraction where I can choose Subtract, and then choose the two objects, press Enter when you've made your selection. Whoops, and I made it in reverse, so that's another thing, is you might want to play around with which object to select first. And there we go.
Oh, dude,
and now
that's awesome.
I have a hole through this object as if, we just removed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those were just a couple of things that I noticed about 123D Design that made it ridiculously easy to get started in modeling. I love the precision, the ability to say, okay, I know, but based on the readings of my micrometer, that this is 6 millimeters wide. So I want to make a channel that's exactly 6 millimeters wide, and I want to have, say, I don't know, like 20 millimeters wide total, and so I can like sync an object in and do subtractions and get that exact channel that I want, and then start playing around with it, because everything gets a little bit different once you get into the real world, of course, too.
Oh, yeah.
Once you actually print it out and realize that it's not exact. But then again, I'm also just using a consumer like Robo 3D R1 3D printer, so that may be it as well. I'm also just using ABS, or I'm sorry, PLA. But
And it looks like micrometers are a pretty decent price on Amazon.
oh yeah, absolutely. This is definitely something
easily
that should
get
be
one.
in your geeky toolkit. And then one other real quick thing about this is R. If you just hit R, you can drop down a ruler. This is they've actually expanded on this feature here recently, and I can just drop
nice.
this ruler anywhere, select the object, and immediately get its dimensions. So I can see that it's 45 millimeters wide here, 45 millimeters wide there. It's 60 millimeters tall, and things of that nature. So
I love
as
that.
far as like intricate designs, I think this was, you know, like I went into it knowing nothing, and it took maybe an hour to get super comfortable with it and actually start printing out pieces that locked together and did exactly what I wanted them to do.
So for that, did you just create the save file in the program, and you were just able to export it out into like Slicer or something?
Right, so it has the ability to, you can either save it to their cloud or to your computer, and it saves it as a proprietary format specific to 123D design. However, you do have the option to export, and you can export here as a standard STL. That's a
Cool.
file that you'd be normally using for 3D printing.
Yeah.
And I don't see any other, like, there's not DXF, I don't think, but they also have, like, if you just hit 3D print, it's gonna ask you if you wanna install their 3D printing software, which would be an alternative. It's called the Autodesk Mesh Mixer for 3D printing. And, you know, I'm happy enough with matter control that I don't necessarily want to do that. But
That is
I
so
wanted to
cool.
throw this out there because I had a great experience with it, and I really enjoyed building things with it. So now I can like go and just put these STLs on Thingiverse for everybody else to enjoy.
Yeah.
Although I will be probably completely redesigning the cube for the next one, especially since we're going to do, I don't want to give too much away. We're going to make the arena even
So
more
I guess
challenging.
we should probably show them the quadcopter deathmatch
Yes.
cube that we created, huh?
Yes, it was epic fun, as you can see. And really, the thing that I'm super happy about it is, like, everybody could just run up to it and be like, ooh, I see how this works, and
Yeah.
immediately start battling. We had,
it was great.
We had some really fun last man standings. We had 1v1s going on that were a lot of fun. We're going to add a new version, which would be a kind of King of the Hill tower defense sort of
Nice.
version. And yeah, I love how everybody could just like jump in and with very little quadcopter experience. In fact,
Yeah.
Allison, one of the winners, who got, you know, domain.com sent us a bunch of stuff to give away, like quadcopters and a
Amanda.
bunch of other swag.
Amanda.
It's Allison.
No.
I'm terrible with names. I'm ruining everything. And that is why you tune into Hak5.
But yeah, she did win
Yes.
one. It was so cool.
But it was very newbie friendly because the quadcopters just with their bumpers and with it being acrylic instead of mesh just bounce right off.
so fun.
So I'm going to be redesigning this here soon, but these are available, and I'll have links to the
All right.
to the Thingiverse for all the thingies.
We're going to take a break, but we will be right back.
Domain.com and .club came to Hak5 with a great idea. Build a club all about learning stuff, making things, and having fun. So we've been hosting open houses at the Hak5 warehouse through hackhouse.club. And with the help of Domain.com and .club, we've taken it to the next level with a quadcopter arena of doom. From LAN parties, drone racing, and battle arenas to 3D printing, software-defined radios, and let's not forget barbecue, hacking is just plain better when it's social. .club gets it, and they are the perfect social domain. Whether it's IRC or clubs in RL, it's all about coming together and having fun. So what better domain to do it than a .club? It's perfect because a .club is universally and globally understood. So if you're looking for the ultimate social domain, consider a .club. So join us this summer in the San Francisco Bay Area and bring your mini quadcopter to the arena for dronebattle.club. We're setting up the leaderboard, so show us what you've got. And what's your .club? Let us know and we'll share it with the Hak5 audience and help spread the word. Get yours over at domain.com/club. They're only $9.99 a year and there are thousands of great domains available. And be sure to use the coupon code HAK5 to get 15% off and let them know we sent you. So, when you think domain names, think domain.com. Boy, have we come a long way since the days of Napster, and here to find out about the latest in file sharing with a little encryption is Isha. Isha, Demonsaw, man, you guys are getting a ton of press since DEF CON. Tell me about it. How are you, man?
Oh, great. Thanks, Darren. It was awesome meeting you guys and hanging out at DEF CON 23, and it really has been amazing. I'm really, really excited about Demonsaw 2.0, which we launched at DEF CON, and been getting some cool press, had some good articles. Most exciting of all, though, is that people are really loving the product, which for me, as the founder of Demonsaw, and I wrote all the code too, it feels really, really good when people can, they just say they love it. Thank you very much. And it's really exciting. I'm having a great time so far.
It's weird actually for us to have like vendors on Hak5. We don't traditionally do that, but it was really cool geeking out with you because you're the hacker behind the scenes that is actually coding this. And your experience comes from what, game development?
Right. So I have about 15 years in software engineering, and it goes all the way back to kind of early days, kind of at really the birth of Napster, kind of back 2000, 1999. And I was an independent contractor. I was the portfolio architect of American Express's online security division. I dabbled here and there. I was a hacker for fun. And then the last 7 years, I've been in game programming, pretty much all C++, but a little Java along the way. And I just thought game programming would be fun and challenging, and it's been all that. But the last 2 years, Demonsaw has been my hobby, and I think it's really taken all of the last 15 years to make Demonsaw what it is today.
So we keep on mentioning Demonsaw, and I know that there's probably 2 people out there who haven't used it yet. So for them, what is Demonsaw?
Well, Demonsaw, the easiest way I found to describe it is Demonsaw is a secure and anonymous, decentralized private cloud. So that's kind of the best way I found to really describe it to people who are new to it. Now, it's much more than that as well. It can be a global file sharing network as well that can scale up to tens of thousands of people. But the best way to describe it is it's really a private decentralized cloud that you control. There's 2 goals I set out when making Demonsaw, and that was I want to make security easy. One of the problems with security is it's so hard if you're not a geek. Just take PGP, for example. I mean, just being able to encrypt your email is so much work. Now, there are some hardcore hackers and geeks that are going to be watching this that are going to be like, you just use this and this and this. Well, that's true, but I'm thinking of my mom or my sister or people who don't go to DEF CON. It really is hard to encrypt your emails. So number 1, make security easy. And number 2, I really wanted to empower the individual. With Demonsaw, I wanted to give control back to you, me, to everybody. I didn't want third parties, corporations to host our data. I didn't want the government to snoop on us. I really wanted to make us powerful again. And those are really my 2 goals for Demonsaw.
So what would you say is the biggest difference between Demonsaw and, say, a BitTorrent client? Because as I was playing with it, I noticed that it's so easy to just log into another client and see what kind of files they have available for download. So it's very similar in that kind of way from a consumer perspective.
It's kind of almost like BitTorrent Sync,
it's very,
which we could
yeah,
use
it's
here
very
in the
similar
office
to that.
to share files.
But how is Demonsaw different?
Okay, well, BitTorrent Sync and Dropbox both share a lot of commonalities with Demonsaw. The difference, though, is that Dropbox is a centralized solution. So it's a very client-server model, right? So you go to their servers, you host your stuff there. And BT Sync is all peer-to-peer, where Demonsaw is not either. In fact, you could describe Demonsaw as a little bit of both, but really not either of them as well. So Demonsaw takes the best from things like Napster and BT Sync and Dropbox, and it just discards all the stuff that we didn't like. So Demonsaw is not peer-to-peer at all. And that, I think, is one of the biggest difference from like a uTorrent or a BT Sync. But it's also not client-server. It's what I call a hybrid private cloud or a decentralized cloud network. It's kind of a new concept.
Well, what makes
hybrid.
what makes it different? Because I understand that you run an instance, like if we wanted to have our own here at the Hak5 warehouse, we would set up one of the machines to run, like maybe a Linux server or something, to run a router, as you guys call it. And so we would now have our Demonsaw router, and all of our clients would then connect to it. But from what I'm understanding from reading your documentation, it seems like all of the data then goes through that router.
Yeah, so and that's a great question. So what really makes Demonsaw different is you can have as many routers as you want. So unlike a traditional client-server network where you pretty much have a primary server, or maybe you do load balancing at a hardware network layer, With Demonsaw, you connect to a given router, and then all of your file transfers can be spread across the world. So with Demonsaw 2.0, you would all your friends would have to connect to one router. So if you guys wanted to set up Demonsaw, which by the way, you're more than welcome to do because it's totally free, you would install one router and set it up to be the message router. And then all your clients would connect to that. And you could set up 10, 20, 30 other routers in the office that were data routers that just transferred the file data. So by doing that, you can scale enormously irrespective of the total number of clients connected to the network. Now, that's the first cool thing with 2.0. With 3.0, which I'm working on now, I'm going to have routers that can group together. So you'll be able to connect to router A, Shannon will be able to connect to router B, and I'll be able to connect to router C. And if they know about each other, we could all join a huge global group and not have to join the same router. So you have more redundancy built in, you have more fault tolerance, and that's where we're going with 3.0. So it allows you to be in control of how you want to set up your network. And really, the sky's the limit. I mean, I don't dictate how you have to set it up.
It sounds kind of similar to the functionality of Tor, but cooler.
Thank you. Yeah, so obviously, I tip my hat to Tor because making something like this, I'm standing on the shoulders of giants, obviously. So the Napsters, the uTorrents, the Tors, the Dropboxes, obviously I've been influenced by all these technologies and architectural designs. So it is very Torish. It has an exit node feel, but it's totally encrypted. And I'm sure you guys are going to ask questions about social crypto later on. But it has a very unique user-defined crypto model that, once again, keeps you in control. You don't need private and public certs to use Demonsaw, which is super cool.
Well, actually, from what I'm understanding about it, you're really abstracting some of those things, and maybe you can kind of touch on, for instance, how this like profile images or icons work and what that plays into cryptography. And I guess that's maybe that is one of the underpinning things of what's making it social crypto. Because again, as Sebastian put it, he's taking a look at it and he asks me, he's like, is this crypto for stupid people?
Well, crypto's really, really hard. Like, the gentleman who spoke after me at DEF CON was Bruce Schneier. You know, a cryptographer, a true, like a legend in the crypto field. I will never be as smart with respect to crypto as Bruce. You know, he's devoted his whole life to it.
I don't think any of us will.
I'm sure he would be the first to admit that he has so much to learn. So it can very well be crypto for people who don't have a strong technical background, but it's also very strong crypto in and of its right. It's not a roll your own crypto. I don't replace algorithms. I don't replace hashes. We use all the standard stuff. The only difference is really how we generate the input entropy that we used for cryptographic derivation later on in the chain. So that's really the key differentiating factor with social crypto.
So we say that we will never be as smart as Bruce Schneier. Why is the product closed source instead of going open source with this?
Oh, then all the Bruce Schneiers of the world could contribute.
So that's a great question. And I'd be a liar if I said I didn't get that question all the time. I've open sourced some of the lower level crypto layer in Demonsaw 2.0 is completely open source, and it's a subset of the code I call Demoncrypt, and you can get that at github.com/ija/demoncrypt. That shows all of the lower level crypto wrappers, and it's all the crypto that Demonsaw uses. The rest of the code hasn't been open source yet, really for just a couple of reasons. Number one is I'm trying to figure out where to go next with Demonsaw. I mean, I think that's the honest answer is, it's open sourcing is a very, very powerful thing. Like I talked about standing on the shoulders of giants before. Linux, Boost, C++, Crypto PP, a lot of these libraries have been open source that Demonsaw uses, and I wouldn't be able to create Demonsaw without the contributions of people who believed in open source. I also believe in open source. What I'm working on right now is trying to figure out when is the timing for that, and what is going to be open source. Because there is some obviously doing a security audit and having the code in the open source would benefit that as well. And I know you guys were probably reading your minds and you're asking the right questions. But all of that is planned. I just have to do it at the right time. Right now, this has been a labor of love, and it's kind of exploded. So I'm taking a moment right now post DEF CON just to kind of get my bearing and figure out What am I going to do? And honestly, I have no idea what I'm going to do. I'm still trying to catch my breath from DEF CON. But I love the open source community. I want to contribute as much as I can to open source. So it's just a matter of time. There's even been some rumors that I might be open sourcing the version 1.0 soon,
Ooh.
since it's been deprecated. It's the C# version, but the protocol's the same. So theoretically, somebody could take it and write a C# version of the client. So there's even that I'm thinking of. But I want to make sure when I do it, it's the correct way of doing it, because that can never be undone.
That's awesome. Yeah, take it nice and slow. I'm glad that you mentioned auditing too, because I was going to ask you about that. But moving on, since you do have that on the horizon, I also know that you partnered with John McAfee of McAfee Security. So I wanted to find out, are you considering like a commercial enterprise with this, or a commercial future for Demonsaw?
That's a great question. So number one is John is a very supportive partner. John has been a strong advocate for privacy and information security for a long, long time. And privacy is important. I know you guys are firm believers in privacy as well. And privacy is getting more and more important as we lose more and more of our personal information and we lose our data online. And there's more and more breaches like the recent adult friend finder breach and some of the other breaches that have been going on. So privacy is important because when we put our data in the hands of corporations and they get hacked, there's no accountability. I mean, they don't have to pay any penalty for losing our data. In terms of my partnership with John McAfee, it just made sense. He and I think very similar with respect to privacy, and surrounding myself with people who think in the same way as I do has only made me a better programmer and a better founder for Demonsaw. So to answer your commercial question, the consumer version of Demonsaw, which is what is available now, will always and forever be totally free. It will never have ads. It will never bundle software. It will never root your machine. It will never mine your machine for Bitcoins. And yes, that is a poke and a jab at uTorrent.
Oh yeah.
It will always be what I've said, and that's totally honest. It will be available for free forever. Whether or not I end up open sourcing it, that's my commitment to the community. I want to do Demonsaw full time. That's my ultimate goal. The reality of that is I've made zero money off of Demonsaw, and it's not a very good monetization model to give something away totally for
Well,
free.
you give it away for free, and then you just make it up on volume, right?
It's
Right,
a
'cause
passion.
1,000,000 times zero is a much bigger number than zero.
You
right?
got to carry the two, but yes. So, okay, so let's go back to the nuts and bolts of it, because as techies, that's the really interesting part here, because there are a lot of different, open specifications for different ways to do these sorts of things, but you're going at it in this novel way, and it's how, I don't know if you've coined this, but you're using the term social crypto. I want to come back to these profile icon thing, because what exactly, like as a user, how do adding profile icons add security, and what benefits do they have for me?
Okay, that's a great question. Well, this goes back to how do we make security easy? If we have people using Demonsaw that don't know anything about PBKDF or HMAX, which they probably, a lot of them don't, then how do we allow them to secure their accounts and secure their communications and their file transfer? The best way to go about making security easy is not to have people remember anything new. No passwords, no user IDs, no passphrases, no public key nonsense. The best thing we can leverage is what's already in their minds. And everybody uses the internet, and everybody understands websites and web addresses, what we call URIs or URLs. So I spoke to my mom about this just to test out social crypto before I wrote the code. And I asked her for a list of 3 websites she goes to every day. And she listed the websites A, B, and C. And then I talked to her about what I was doing with Demonsaw, and I geeked her out a bunch, and I confused her. And then at the end of the 10 minutes, I went back to her and I said, can you name off in the same ordering those 3 websites again? And she nailed it, no problem. So by using websites or web addresses, now it doesn't have to just be a web address. It could be a URL for an image or a PDF, or it can be a local file. But by using these pathing approaches, people already know where they like to go. They already know about Demonsaw.com or about Reddit.com or CNN.com or whatever it might be. So by using what they already know, we can then link that to the ones and zeros that are behind these websites. So the HTML pages or the the JPEGs or the PNG files or the PDFs, and we could suck in all those bytes, those ones and zeros that comprise the file, and then we can feed those into cryptographic routines like password-based key derivation functions or HMACs or some of these more cryptographic routines to generate a key or a series of keys that we can use to create ciphers like AES or MARS or RC6 and encrypt and decrypt our data.
So are you using the actual URL to generate the key, or using the contents that the URL brings you to generate the keys?
The contents of the file. And that's the clear distinguishing factor, because right now a lot of people will generate keys from passphrases. And it's important when you use PBKDF to generate a passphrase, you give it a certain amount of entropy, a certain bits of entropy. Otherwise you might open yourself up to hash collisions later on. So I'm using the contents of whatever you reference in the URL. So if you reference an HTML page, I'm using the ones and zeros that make up that. If you reference a PNG file, I'm using the ones and zeros. This can be a zip, it can be an executable, it can be Demonsaw.com, it can be whatever you want, which is great because there's so much content in the internet that we won't ever be able to map it. In fact, one could argue that the greatest source of entropy we have today is the World Wide Web. And that's the argument I make. Now, in and of itself, those ones and zeros are not random. But by feeding them through a bunch of algorithms, adding salts, plugging them in through PBKDF, increasing the iterations, we're able to derive very cryptographic keys that we can then use to encrypt. And Demonsaw supports multiple layers of this. So once again, if you're Edward Snowden and you want to transfer state secrets to Glenn Greenwald, then you can do so at the proper level of security to meet your needs. But if you're my mom wanting to share pictures of her grandchildren with cousins, then obviously we can customize Demonsaw to meet that specific need. So go ahead.
Are you implementing perfect forward secrecy with this as well?
Perfect forward secrecy is implemented through the initial handshake, which uses Diffie-Hellman. So the clients do an initial Diffie-Hellman handshake. There's multiple levels and layers of encryption. One of them is the very first exchanges between the client and the router or routers, and there's perfect forward secrecy with that via Diffie-Hellman, which means that if any given key is compromised at any side, the whole thing hasn't gone to hell, basically. So,
awesome.
Great.
It sounds like it's an interesting use of, like you said, your mom can remember URLs, use those as if key files like in TrueCrypt or something like that. And to do the encryption of the file in transit, and I'm assuming as the file goes through your data routers, because as you say, like it's a peer-to-peer system, but you're also running through routers. So these data routers have a copy of them in their memory as they go through, but the encrypted copy. So you're really just providing the means for people to make those Diffie-Hellman handshakes and whatnot in a more social fashion. It's cool.
Yeah, that's it. So the routers, and even time, say we had a poison router out there, the NSA had kind of put up a honeypot router or whatever, and I was sharing files with the two of you, and we were using multiple levels of social crypto, and we were encrypting our data. They could know that we're connecting via IPs, assuming we didn't have proxies or VPNs or we're using Tor or some other technology, but they wouldn't know exactly what we were exchanging. Now, questions have come up too about, okay, well, that's fine and all, but what about like deep packet inspection and some of these other things going on? Well, with 3.0, I'm going to be implementing HTTPS support, which will help with that to get end-to-end encryption. But once again, the idea behind Demonsaw is you be as secure as you need to be. So if you're really worried about security, then host your own message routers, host your own data routers. It all comes back to your comfort zone and where you need to be. There are people who use public routers in the default group with minimal security, and they're fine with that. So it's about empowering you to make good or potentially not so good decisions, but you are the one who knows your personal needs best.
But what you were saying was essentially, as far as groups, if Shannon and I both use the same URL to like a poop emoji or whatever have you, now when we both plug them into our clients, both of our clients are going to generate the same key. So now we have symmetric keys.
Yeah.
Well, then anyone else with that link to the poop emoji is also going to have our symmetric key and be able to, decrypt the information in transit?
Right, which is why we do one of two things. So you can add multiple layers, or you can tweak any of these 6 or 7 settings for that individual URL, like entropy percentage. So what percentage of the bytes will I use? You can change the cipher, you can change the key size, you can change the hash, you can add a salt, you can increment the iteration count. So now there's all these kind of geeky friendly settings that you can tweak, as well as by adding multiple rows, the specific ordering of that is absolutely essential as well. So you can go horizontally and you can go horizontally and you can go vertically in that.
So if my friends, we all share the same pick, then the NSA has our pick, but they can also generate the key from that. And so all the NSA has to do is, like you said, vertically just try all of those iterations of it.
Right. They can do that. Although, did we change the entropy percentage? Like, am I using 23.073% of your pick, or am I using 23.074% of your pick? Or did I add a hash like PBKDF2 with a 10,000 iteration or 10,001 iteration? Did I add a salt to that? What is my salt? You know, the red fox jumps over the green fence is my salt. So now so as you see it, now the real traditional crypto kicks in. Now all the traditional crypto settings kick in. So just using the URL, it might be good enough for baby pics, MP3s, Word docs, stuff like that. But if I'm Edward Snowden and you're Glenn Greenwald, we're going to want to get into the meat a little bit.
Okay, but then you can have the same problem. So what you're saying is if we just use the default settings and you happen to have the same URL where we derived the key, well then that'd be simple, but there's all of the twiddly bits that you can twiddle, but now I have to tell Edward Snowden which bits to twiddle.
Yep, and I was talking to Sean Gallagher at DEF CON from the IT editor of Ars Technica, and he was going into some level of detail, like what reporters and whistleblowers, and you guys are probably familiar with this, what they have to go through to kind of do initial handshakes, and here's how we're going to communicate, here's the protocols we're going to use. So there's already a lot of this out-of-band kind of finagling going on with reporters and whistleblowers, and even in Citizen4 there was a lot of that going on. So the idea here is right now you would use similar protocols in existence and just replace the software. Instead of the WikiLeaks upload software, you could use Demonsaw. But Demonsaw is much more flexible. We can put it on our laptops. We don't need infrastructure at all. With 3.0, what I'm thinking of doing is making it even easier and having like some sort of group export process, so that maybe you export all the configurations in a very, very crypto wrapper that I can send you through some sort of, once again, possibly secure, possibly insecure out-of-band communication that you then decrypt. That obviously opens up some other security concerns, but it does make it much easier to configure a very complicated group as well.
Right, you could even do it right back into the dick pic image, making it stenography. That word, you know the word.
Exactly. So it once again, it goes back to however deep and secure you need to be, I provide the facility. But if you're just going to go just on the surface, then then other people could get into the group. But here's the beautiful thing of Demonsaw. Let's say Shannon gets in our group and we don't want her in there for some odd reason.
Jerks.
I don't know. We're mad at her one day. What we can do is you and I can just change one of the bits of any of our settings, and we are in a new group. So it's anti-revocation. We don't revoke her. We self-revoke. We just move. It's somebody being loud at the airport, listening to music loud. Instead of trying to convince them to turn the volume down, sometimes it's easier just to get up and leave. And that's the idea we would just switch to a new group and leave her guessing which bit did they change.
Yeah, Shannon, we're going to take our ball and play somewhere else.
You can't sit with us.
Oh. So yeah, that's a great question too. It's an interesting, novel, new approach to security, and now keep in mind it doesn't replace all security use, as you can imagine. It's not a replacement for traditional corporate-based identity provider type security models where you need the infrastructure, you need the key stores and the identity authorities and stuff. But for individuals and groups transitioning in and out of relationships in a dynamic manner and file sharing, it's workable. And so that's kind of what I've released with 2.0.
It sounds, talking about old school, like this sounds like a lot. It sounds as easy to set up as it was in the 90s to get on IRC F-serves to download MP3s, if you kind of see where I'm going with that.
Exactly. And with 3.0, I'm going to make it even easier with groups. So.
All right. Well, it sounds like you're very passionate about this. I'm sure you got a ton of feedback at DEF CON. I'm sure we'll have a ton of feedback as well in the comments on this video. And we just want to wish you the best to it. Anybody, venturing off, creating software for the good of man. And it's just, really, it's kind
cool.
of epic to see the sea change that's happened in a post-Snowden era where everybody's like, oh, cool, that's a fun problem. Let's tackle this problem.
I can't trust anybody. I can trust myself.
I don't know if I can trust her. But with that, Aja, I really do want to thank you for coming on the program. Where can people find out more if they're interested in getting Demonsaw on their Windows machines and Linux boxes and Raspberry Pis and whatnot?
All right. Well, the best place to go is Demonsaw.com. You can download Linux version, Windows version. I'm still working on the OS 10 version right now. And if you want to get in touch with me, there's a couple of ways. You can go to my Twitter account, demon_saw. Or you can send me an email at Eijah, that's EIJAH, @demonsaw.com. I respond to every email I get. I've got an open door policy. I'm here for you guys. I made Demonsaw for us, for you, for me, and that's really it. What you see, what you hear is what you get. I'm an honest guy, so I'm here for you.
Quick yes or no, are you making an Android app?
Yes, it's part of Demonsaw 3.0, which hopefully will be done in between 4 and 6 months. Android's going to happen, as well as a ton more features. I'm excited. This is just the beginning, guys. You're going to see Demonsaw 3.0, 4.0, and not to give some kind of sneak peeks here, but there's some really cool announcements that will be coming out in the next few weeks about Demonsaw and some extra partnerships that I'm working on right now. So truly, this is just the beginning. I'm here to stay. This is what I love doing, and hopefully you love using it.
Well, it sounds cool, and it sounds like you have a lot on your plate. That's a lot of platforms to support. I'm hoping personally that we see, even if it's not open source, maybe an open specification where, like you alluded to with 1.0, there being ways to have some interoperability with third-party apps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that happening. It's on the list. I just don't know where it falls in, but that's been reflected as well. So.
Sounds great. It's great to have you on. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Talk to you later.
Bye.
That just about wraps up this week's episode of Hak5, but before we get going, I want to remind you guys that we have some epic stuff going on, lots of events. Pentest with Hak5, you can find the details over at pentestwithhak5.com. So we're going to be having some epic InfoSec training with myself and Sebastian Kinna and with Rob Fuller, aka Mubix.
We're also going to have some TAs with you guys as well to help out with the training,
Yes.
So that'll be really, really fun.
And that's
September 18th through 20th. Are the dates. So you can find out all the information pentest at pentestwithhak5.com.
There we go. It's a lot of fun. It really is, and it's unlike any other InfoSec training because it's very story driven. I don't want to give anything away. No spoilers, no spoilers.
The story's
but
so good.
Anyway, you end up becoming part of the team, and we just take down epic evil, and it's great stuff.
Oh man, it's so much fun.
With that said, we also have a camp coming up, but I can't release any specifics about it other than to remind you that if you're interested in joining us for a rave-style underground hacker camp, all you have to do is sign up at camp503.com. 503 is the HTTP service code for service unavailable, not as in the camp is in Portland. Although we may be in Portland if a lot of Portlandians sign up. Is that what they're called? Portlanders? Whatever. Anyway, we're offending everybody.
Hak5.org is where you can go to find all the other stuff.
Yes, and hakshop.com if you want to buy some goodies.
There you go.
Yes, with all of that, I'm Darren Kitchen.
I'm Shannon Morse.
Trust your technolist.
Stealing this.
With all of that, I'm Darren Kitchen.
I'm Shannon Morse.
Trust your technolist.
Stealing this.
Where's my mate? My mate.
Oh, Nick, this is for you.